So, Castlevania Season 3.
What about it?
Well, I thought the majority of it was good. The ending left kind of a sour taste in my mouth. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, exactly that. So,
that was rough.
You know...
How spoilery are we getting with this? I know we're kind of unscripted. But...
Yes, we are going all the spoilers.
Okay, so
fair warning.
Alert. Spoiler alert.
Things got more spoilers than a decked out sports car, so consider that your warning.
Do they really have a lot of spoilers?
Alright.
Anyway.
Let's start with the good. Start with the good stuff, and then we'll get to my gripes later. So, overall, 10 episodes. A good decent length for
nice.
A season.
Healthy chunk.
Yep.
Good-sized episodes, too.
Yes, the scale of everything seemed bigger because if y'all watched our previous video on this, about a year and a half ago at this point, Castlevania Season 2 ended off with all of our parties going separate ways. We had 4 different parties we were following this time. We had Trevor and Sypha off doing their thing. Alucard stayed behind in Dracula's castle. Isaac got tossed out in the middle of the desert, is building his own army now, and Hector is enslaved by Carmilla. And Hector, I think, got the least amount done out of anybody this season. Actually.
Depends on how much you want to go, or... Depends on what your definition of done is, but we'll get to that later.
Alright, so... we're not going to go play-by-play on this one, and I do plan to do a Gogglehead review of this, so I'm going to say some of my material.
That'll probably be the more play-by-play.
Yeah, I'm going to say some of my material for that, which that's not going to happen until it comes out on home media, just because I want to support the creators and all that, but... So, to summarize, basically, Trevor and Sypha show up at a village, spooky stuff goes down, hijinks ensue, they end up...
Hijinks.
Yeah, that's just the best way to describe that.
Make it sound like Scooby-Doo, nah. Torments and Hellfire, yeah.
So it's Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah, so they end up fighting against literal Cthulhu at one point, just all kinds of demons that literally came from the pits of hell itself, not just night creatures. Isaac is off building his own army again. He travels all over. He wasn't in Europe. Where was he at that point?
I think it was a Middle Eastern type area. It was deserty, so...
Yeah, that's where he ended up when Dracula...
Because he was going back to Europe.
And he needed to cross the water at some point, so... I'm trying to picture a world map in my head, but I'm falling short.
Let's not
regardless,
show how bad we are in geography here.
Regardless, he's on his way...
We want them to think we're smart and intelligent, Review Blade.
So, Isaac's on his way back to Styria because he wants to kill Hector for betraying Dracula. And he's picking up night creatures along the way. And he actually gets a good chunk of development on his own, gets to talk to a few people, and he realizes that not every single human is the scum of the earth.
Not everyone is trash. Close! But not everyone.
Close because it seems that every single time he meets somebody nice, immediately afterward he meets someone who's just as rude.
Yep. Alucard starts off living my kind of life, and then it gets a whole lot better, then a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Real fast.
That's the part that just kind of...
Yeah.
I've heard it asked before, can a bad ending ruin something? It didn't ruin it, but it definitely left off on a sour note. The only one who actually had a good ending, depending on how you want to look at it, I would say the only one who had a definitively good ending was Isaac. Because he got to rebuild his army, got to kill one of the big iconic Castlevania bosses, Legion, which that's really awesome. And he found a big magic transition mirror so he can travel directly to Styria without going anywhere else. But everyone else, their ending was really somber. It's like Hector, not Hector, Trevor.
Hector's ending, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Trevor and Sypha visit this town. The town gets completely wiped out, but they survive. And let's talk about Trevor and Sypha's development just a little bit here. I think they're adorable as a couple.
Yes,
very
much so.
It's very fun seeing them bounce off each other, and it's obvious that things have progressed a good bit in their relationship in the past. They say it's been approximately 1 month since the battle with Dracula, maybe a little bit more at this point. Things have obviously progressed a bit, and it's the way they bounce off each other, the way they quip at each other, it's adorable, and Sypha's just having the time of her life with all this monster hunting.
And Trevor's not hating it either.
He's not hating it.
Which is odd for him.
Right? Because he hated his life up till now. But it's like Sypha said back at the end of Season 2, you're doing more you're acting like a person more now that we're fighting monsters than you were back when I met you. So, they're both living the best life that they can right now. Trevor's used to all the carnage and bloodshed, and Sypha is only used to having to kill monsters. And then at the end of the season, when all the horrible stuff goes down, Trevor uses the words, "We've been living your life for the past 2 months, now we're living mine." So it's like Sypha had to sober up a little bit. Mm-hmm. She's coming off that buzz, off the...
Realize not everything's going to end in a total victory.
Exactly, and her powers have gone through the roof now, literally throwing ice destructo discs, and she can Iron Man her way around with jets of flames and all that.
Let's not forget to taste my lightning, fucker.
that was glorious.
Yes.
Killed, what was that, Baphomet with it? Or something like that?
It looked like Mammon.
It was some kind of goat monster.
My demonology is a little rusty. Forgive me.
Yeah. Blew the head off Cthulhu.
Yeah.
While Trevor's fighting the big guys opening the portal to hell, she's over there taking out all the other ones.
Can we talk about Trevor sandbagging a little bit? He's just like, I have to kill this thing over and over and over again. Not if you can just blow it up in one fell swoop. Because it can come back from dead, but it's not coming back from super dead.
Well, like in most fighting games, you got to build up your special meter. You got to get enough combos. But still, dual wielding the Morning Star and the Vampire Killer simultaneously. That was horrifying.
I have said 100 times, I will say again, anyone who is actually good with a whip horrifies me. I am absolutely terrified of a whip master.
I've only ever seen someone dual-wielding whips one other time in a piece of fiction. Ironically enough, it was also a Konami product. The Boktai manga. But again, it was just the manga, it wasn't the game, but that's irrelevant. It wasn't nearly as cool as this.
Isaac, we pretty much already covered Isaac. I mean, the dude killed Legion.
That's pretty big accomplishment this
Solo
season.
For the better half of it.
Yeah, of course, it was a little bit different than it goes about in the games. In the game, Legion's a big collective ball of dead bodies, it looks like, and you got to kill it piece by piece. In this case, he just had to kill the one who's controlling it, which it was a wizard cast a spell on a bunch of people. They were, not subtle at all with the whole Crown of Thorns halo.
It looked cool. The Crown of Thorns with the third eye going on, that was dope.
He killed the wizard, and I'm actually kind of sad that we don't see him devil forge his body, because it'd be like, you enslaved this town, but you belong to me now. That would have been beautiful.
Yeah, I would say he probably did, but it just didn't show it.
Also, if I was wondering, yes, the bandit from Season 2 that he forged, like the one who showed up at the desert and was taunting him and all that, he does make a reappearance for all of 2 seconds before getting smacked.
Yep.
That's all he deserved, though. Before we delve into the nitty-gritty of what was kind of distasteful or disturbing this season...
Yeah, should we put a warning up here for that too?
Distasteful is not the word I'd use, but the disturbing stuff. Yeah, we'll put a warning here in a second, but before we get to that, new characters. Saint Germain and the Judge.
I loved him.
Saint Germain is spectacular, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I haven't played Curse of Darkness yet, but I'm going to. Here soon, I'm going to play through the Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness so I can further my knowledge a bit. That reminds me. I posted a prediction video about a couple weeks ago at this point. I don't remember how long it's been. Only 1.5 of my predictions came true. One of them was that Saint Germain will make an appearance, which means even if you wanted to, you could say that was technically only a 50-50 guess, because I said the guy in the poster is either Zed, who is Death in Disguise, or Saint Germain himself. So you could take that however you want it.
Yeah.
The other one was that because, what was her name? The Cho. The Japanese vampire from the previous season, she appeared in the trailer, so I said it was either a flashback or she's been resurrected or survived the Battle of Dracula. It was a flashback, what else could it have been, right?
Yeah.
That was a one or the other kind of deal. It didn't affect the overall season, though, but we'll get to who that affected here in a minute. But Saint Germain, he's different than he was depicted in the games. In the games, he was a time traveler, and he wasn't really dabbled with much. In this one, he's a magician, and very theatric. The entire time I'm looking at him, I'm seeing Shakespeare from Fate Apocrypha. Not only do they have something of a similar aesthetic going on, but their speaking patterns, the way they carry themselves.
He also he also leads into my favorite quote, who's also from the other new major character, the Judge. The fuck is toilet paper?
Yeah, it's Chinese. Yeah, apparently...
I rolled for a minute on that one.
Apparently, at this point in history, toilet paper hasn't made its way to Europe yet, which I think that's hilarious, that people have never even heard of it. But, yeah, Saint Germain makes a comment about that. Saint Germain's been all over the place, and we do kind of dabble in him being a time traveler a little bit because the Gateway to Hell is part of something called the Infinite Corridor in this storyline, and he's trying to bring someone back, so and he does promise to meet with Sci-Fi and Trevor again, so that is him being a time traveler in some way or form, or at least a dimension jumper, if nothing else. We'll see where that goes next season, hopefully. The Judge. I really wanted to like him, and I did like him until the very end. Like, I'm going to go and say this. I think that his design might be in reference to Zed, I mentioned earlier, who's the Grim Reaper. I think the design is referenced because he's bald, wears a big flowing black robe, or of course that is just kind of a cliche design for deathly like characters.
I think you might be reading a little bit into it on that one.
It's an adaptation. I try to find correlations. I try to... It's what you do. He seemed like a pretty upstanding character until like the last... Well, maybe not upstanding, but he seemed like a pretty cool guy until like the last 3 episodes of this season.
And then it got shady real quick.
Yeah. It all started with an apple tree.
Yep.
Like, early on we see that the Judge, he's not given any other name, by the way, just known as the Judge. Basically, like, what's the word for it? Not the mayor of the town, but something in that regard. He's the mayor? Okay.
Pretty much.
Well, he basically is the person who runs the town, makes sure that everything stays how it should, and he really doesn't like it when children run around, make noise. And so there's this one boy who is running, and he says, "I told you not to run before, but I know you're always here to get the freshest apples at the market every day. So I tell you what, I have a private apple tree. Follow this route, and you'll find it. Go ahead and pick yourself 3 apples." And then that line comes back later, the directions he gives him. One of the major antagonists...
Remember, we're not doing a total play-by-play.
Right. But it turns out it led him to something shady, which the kid died, and...
Yeah. Turns out the Judge is a child murderer.
Yeah.
We put the warnings up earlier.
Yeah. Bluebeard over here. But, Alright, so now to get to the more disturbing stuff.
Well, I wouldn't exactly call the sex part disturbing. I would say how it was dealt with was the more disturbing part. Before
we get to that, we need to introduce our other characters, the Vampire Sisters. We haven't even talked about them yet.
We can get to them after this.
But it's kind of relevant.
We'll get to them with Hector. We haven't really discussed Hector that much.
Okay, well, let's go with Alucard then.
Yeah.
Alucard has been on his own for a month, going insane, he said himself, and they kind of pulled the Red vs. Blue season 15 here, where he's talking to literal dolls of Sci-Fi and Trevor just to have someone to talk to. For those who watch Red vs. Blue, you get what I'm referencing here. And then suddenly he encounters 2 new people who show up out of nowhere. The names were Sumi and Taka, I think.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, we're from Japan. We're trying to find a way to kill this vampire. Can you help us?" And he's like, "Sure." So he takes them in. He lets them crash at his castle for, however long it is, a week or so.
I think it was a couple of months.
However long it is. He lets them crash over. He keeps them fed. He gives them beds. He shows them the Belmont Hold. Shows them all the nice things. Gives them every kindness.
Yep.
And then I'm just going to come out and say it. They rape him and attempt to murder him.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
They took advantage of that poor innocent cinnamon roll. Why did they have to do that to my boy?
This is going to sound crude, but his first time was bloodier than most first times.
That's bad.
A little bit?
That's bad. I cannot believe that. Oh, my.
You were thinking it.
I in fact, was not.
Well,
yeah.
They decide they want to kill him, and in their words, it's because they've traveled halfway across the world, and everyone they've ever met has lied to them, cheated them, taken advantage of them.
So they don't believe that he would be any different.
Yes. And...
Which...
For me, personally, I think that's kind of a weak reason, because it's... Cliché's not the word for it, but it wasn't presented properly in this case. You've heard show, don't tell before? That's what I think if we had seen more of that, if we'd gotten a few more flashbacks with them.
But it was kind of more of a side plot, which is why we didn't get Because I would have actually liked to see more of them.
Yes.
Or, well...
I think we saw plenty of them.
Yeah. But, they just didn't have the time put into them for that plot point to hit as hard as it would have. I mean, they also didn't make it very hard to see that there was a betrayal incoming.
Yes, it just didn't need to, like, it was, on one hand it was too subtle, but at the same time too obvious.
Yeah.
It was kind of teetering on, it could go either way, you're not going to be surprised, but I didn't expect that to be how it went down. Like...
Yeah, it was... I was not expecting that either, and that also gets to the point, and we'll bring it back up, I guess, later with Hector, but the way they handled the sex scene was just strange to me, because they would cut into action, and then into the scene, and then into action, then into the scene.
See,
and then finally it broke into the attempted murder part, which I think is what they were trying to build towards, but instead it just kind of kept me out of both of them.
See,
I wasn't into the scene or the action.
What I think they were trying to do, excuse me, what I think they were trying to do was literally have all 4 climaxes going at once. Because literally, it's cutting between Trevor and Sypha's epic battle with Isaac fighting Legion, while cutting with Hector getting some, we'll go into that in a minute, and then cutting to the 3-way with Alucard and his visitors.
I'm just stuck on the fact you had to use the word climaxes.
Yes. I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. It's just your choice of words sometimes.
Excuse me.
But yeah, so that's...
I thought it was distracting, because it's like I'm trying to focus on Isaac fighting this wizard, I'm trying to focus on Trevor taking out these demons, and it's because of... Excuse me.
Are you dying?
Yes. Get a shovel. Yeah.
I know a pit by an apple tree.
Yeah, just make sure you save my shoes. But it kept coming back and forth between the 2 big fights and the 2 sex scenes, and I just felt it's very distracting on the whole, because you can't focus on any single one of these parts because it's juggling them constantly. If it had been flopping back and forth between the 2 fight scenes or the 2 sex scenes, just at different points, you could have focused more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really don't
honestly,
care.
If it would have been a little less like, that's honestly my whole complaint about the entire series. Like, the
editing was choppy at times.
I wouldn't even say at times. It was really just that one point where it was going between 4 big scenes at the same time. Because one thing I'll say they did right with the sex scenes is they were important.
Yes, they actually were.
They were super important. It was not done in bad taste. Like, it wasn't
in terms of plot relevance. It actually is. Yes.
And that's something that I really appreciate in books, TV shows, hell, tabletop RPGs. When I don't mind sex being thrown into anything, I'm an adult, but if it's in some sort of entertainment medium, make it make sense.
Make it relevant.
Unless I'm just watching porn or reading hentai, I don't just want that there for no reason. And they did that very well.
Hector's more so well than Alucard's, but...
Yeah.
I mean... Like, earlier we said that it was Alucard's first time, and I think the biggest evidence for that was the fact that he actually started crying at one point, but he was smiling, so it's like...
Yeah, that could have either been due to it being his first time, potentially...
Or he was just lonely.
Or he was just that lonely. Either way, they took advantage of him.
Yes, and so... And technically he didn't say, yes, let's do this, so again, I say that qualifies as, at the bare minimum, sexual assault, so...
But, regardless, either way...
So,
it was done well plot-wise, it just leaves a sour taste.
Yeah. So, predictably, like I said, they tried to kill him. Predictably, he's forced to kill in self-defense, and then he turns him into scarecrows.
Yeah.
At least he had the decency...
Started off kind of depressed, lonely, whatever. Got a whole lot better because he had friends, and now it's so much worse. It's so much worse.
And his choice of words as he's walking inside, after looking at them, he says, "It worked for dead old dad." And I'm like, oh, that hits home.
Yep.
At least he had the decency to reclothe them first. I'll give him points for that.
Alright, that gets us to
Hector.
honestly some of my favorite characters. Hector's storyline is more dictated by the people who are dictating what happens to him. Carmilla has 3 sisters.
Yeah. It's like a...
Striga, Marana, and Lenore.
Yes.
I'm honestly surprised I got all 3 names right.
The one I was having trouble remembering was
Marana?
Morana, yes.
Yeah, they only say her name like 3 times in the whole series.
I think she did the least. Striga is the most memorable because... Striga is the second most memorable because she's like very big, very strong Amazonian vampire.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaks with a Russian accent. And Lenore is the small one that I thought was going to be...
the craziest of the 3?
No, I thought that...
I thought she was going to be the craziest of the 3.
I thought that she was going to be a carryover from the games, but it turns out not. Oh well.
Well, one of us was right, because I'm still pretty sure she's the craziest of the 3. Also, she's my favorite.
Yeah. And honestly... Well, I'll get into that here. I'll get into that here in a minute. Carmilla just kind of took a back seat this season, but I think it's understandable because they mentioned...
We know what she does.
Yes, we know what she does, and on top of that...
And we see what she's doing.
They lost her entire army at the end of Season 2, and they said they've been on this walk for 30 freaking days. A walk, mind you, because they lost their horses. And they didn't have any sort of machine to travel with. They walked all the way back to Styria. Carmilla's exhausted. She's like, I need a vacation before I start killing all the humans again. Or before we turn them into livestock. So I'm like, okay, Carmilla, you can take some time. You can be a big villain next season. Yep. I'm okay with that.
Then you get... I guess we can go into what they do. Marana of the 3 other sisters is the strategist, where Carmilla, she's the... How do they put it? The dreamer?
They describe her as the dreamer. She's like the one that has the most clout, I suppose. Yeah. The highest charisma stat.
Yeah. Carmilla, she gets the idea in her head.
And the other 3 pull it off.
And the other 3 are the ones with the skills to pull it off. Because Marana, she's the strategist. She can think up how to do it. Striga, she's the fighter, the war master. She can make the soldiers happen. She can win the fight.
And Lenore's the diplomat.
Yeah, Lenore's the diplomat. And she's just so likable.
Yeah, and...
She's...
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a charming character.
Especially a redhead.
Yeah, especially a redhead. So like any character like that. Have you ever seen Death Parade?
I have not.
Okay, there's a character in that, Nona, and she's almost a carbon copy. She's just so charming. So
basically, without going on forever, to describe the situation, Hector is a Forge Master, can create monsters. They need him to do so, but they're loyal to him specifically. Like, the monster's loyal to him.
They don't want to just give him an undead army.
Yeah, like, that's what Isaac is doing. So, they need a way to win Hector over, and that's why they send Lenore. Lenore, contrary to Carmilla, who beat the ever-living snot out of Hector at the last episode of last season, Lenore charms him.
Yeah, it was super nice.
And makes him develop Stockholm Syndrome, obviously.
Yeah.
And then
kind of betrays him low-key.
Just a little bit. Like, of course, we mentioned there's a sex scene there. She built up the relationship enough to where...
Trust me, he was agreeing to it at the time.
Yes, and she said, I want you to pledge loyalty to me, promise that you'll be mine. And she made him repeat it like twice, and then stuck a magic ring on his finger that made him bound to her. And I'm like, you consented, Hector. You said yes. And on the one hand, I want to feel bad for him because he's this dumb and gullible, but on the other hand, you betrayed all of humanity and tried to kill us all. So, on the other hand, you deserve this.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag there. But
Isaac technically did the same thing, but Isaac's a more impressive villain, so that's why I'm rooting for Isaac.
Yeah, we're not going to say Lenore did nothing wrong, but we're also not going to say that Hector didn't totally deserve it.
I'm going to say that Lenore didn't do as much wrong as Carmilla did. Because when you think about it, she's a vampire. She needs to exist in some way, and if they're going to accomplish their goals somehow, and like she said, she's being diplomatic, but on top of that, in addition to making Hector...
She's still paying good on their deal, though. He's going to be treated well.
Getting his own house, getting, in...
Free run of the castle.
Free reign of the castle, and, a new pair of shoes. But...
Yeah. Honestly, as long as he doesn't run away or try to betray them somehow, there's no real... downside.
Eternal servitude, but you pretty much swore that when you sided with Dracula anyway, so... And if nothing else, you're probably going to die once he got done with all the other humans, so... this is a good outcome for him, as best as you can hope
Yeah, that's
for.
what I was going to say before, is like when you said Isaac had the only good ending, I'm like, well, Hector.
Depends on how you want to take that. Trevor and Sypha leads off on a for a hopeful future. Alucard's
our
just got rocked.
Our heroes kind of got shat on.
Yeah. And I really hope that this does lead to bigger, better things next season. Again, I thought Season 3 was great. It had good action. I will say the animation, like not the drawings, not the art, but the animation was a bit lacking in some parts. One thing I've noticed is that the more action's going on, the more frame drop there is.
Yeah.
We got that a little bit of that last season, and a lot of times...
But part of that might still be just because of our internet.
No, it's like even while I watched the DVD version of Season 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think that sometimes in an action sequence, I think it's okay to have just a few drop frames here and there because it doesn't need to be so detailed it takes you out of the experience. You need to be in the rush with them because when you got your adrenaline pumping, everything seems fluid. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, too much information can overwhelm you and take you out of the experience. But there were a few times wherein the animation just seemed choppy in between frames when it wasn't during the action sequence. I think the best way I can describe it is like immediately after Trevor kills the big monster right before they close the gateway to hell. That's the best part I can show for the frame drop. But I'm not going to nitpick that too much. Overall, Season 3 I thought was great. Again, except for that last part, I wish that had been rewritten just a little bit, or at the very minimum showed us more with Taka and Sumi.
Yeah. So,
yeah. We have
thoughts then?
Overall thoughts, I enjoyed it. If it weren't for that one moment, I could score it higher. I'm not going to give it like a numerical score or anything, because I'm still going to need some time to simmer on this one.
Yeah.
But definitely looking forward to Season 4. I hope that this is not... Like, I hope this is the lowest point Alucard will get. I hope he does not become another Dracula and try to destroy all of humanity.
Alright. I would say, as for my final thoughts on the matter, I didn't enjoy it as much as Season 2. It was phenomenal, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But Season 2 was better. But at the same time, don't get me wrong on this, Season 2 was hard to follow up on.
Yeah, I mean, you literally killed Dracula, the big bad of the series.
Yeah. So,
And
I mean,
the whole bedroom... Oh, that is one thing I forgot to mention. The scene after the attempted murder, Alucard is in his old bedroom. His dad's ring is still on the floor where they burned him to ashes. In the fetal position and crying. That was heavy.
Yeah.
That hurt.
But yeah.
So,
but having if you want to call it a down season, it's like if on like a 1 to 5, Season 1 was like a 2, 2 was like a 5, and then Season 3 was like maybe a 4. If you want to call a 4 a down season, it was just
kind of low.
Huh?
Scoring Season 1 kind of low. A lot of people like Season 1 better than 2.
Well, it's not. It again. This is not me saying it's bad. I'm just saying in the amount of clout that it had, in the amount of stuff that just happened.
Yes.
In each of them, one had the least going on.
Oh yeah, because it was more like an extended preview of what was to come.
Yeah. So it's like, don't get me wrong. I'm not meaning to score one low as in it's crap. I'm just saying in terms of how much stuff was going on.
It's like
one didn't have a lot.
It's like playing the demo before the game comes out.
Yeah. One didn't have a lot. 2 had everything, and then 4 was just missing a little. 3 was just missing a little bit to keep it on the same par.
I think that you feel that mostly because the biggest thing that we left off with the Season 2 in terms of potential for further plot expansion that wasn't just a blank slate, like the loosest plot thread was what was Carmilla going to do. Mm-hmm. And we didn't really go very far with that one. Everyone else is just kind of like, well, we finished that storyline, what we do now? Blank slate, we can do whatever we want. Carmilla's like, I have a plan, we're going to do this. They haven't done it yet. So it's like, in the grand scheme, not a lot of progress has been made.
If they could, because in my opinion, Trevor and Sypha and Isaac had the 2 main plot lines going on in this one.
I concur.
And Hector and Alucard, or well, Carmilla and Alucard, however you want to say it.
Yes.
Had the side plots going on
because they literally went nowhere.
Yeah, if they could have dedicated as much time to the other 2 plots as they did the other ones, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they should have because they're human and God help them, they did phenomenal.
Yes.
Again, I cannot stress this was good. But if they could have somehow done a full plot arc on both Alucard and Carmilla / Hector's thing,
Yes.
it would have been better than 2.
I think that if maybe it had been 12 episodes instead of 10, if they'd just given us, like, maybe not an entire episode, but, like, the better half of one episode showing us some of Alucard's visitors' backstory and showing us...
Yeah, but that's getting into semantics.
But, you know, that's...
They probably just...
Didn't have
They
time.
were probably told you have 10 episodes, make it happen.
And we already had to introduce Saint Germain and the judge, and the big plot, the A plot was at the town. B plot, I would say, is Isaac. C plot is Hector, and D plot is Alucard.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was my final thoughts. Not quite as good as 2, but like a 9 out of 10 compared to a 10 out of 10 is not fucking bad.
Yeah, not in the slightest. Just at the end, it makes me want more. That's the best way I can describe it.
Like season 4,
if
please confirm it.
I think
us off.
I think that's the best way I can... yeah, the reason we have that slight concern is I read this interview where the writer said in his words that because of how he paced Season 3, he killed any chance of Season 4. Sorry, everybody. I'll have a link to that interview down in the description below. I might be misinterpreting what he said. It might just be a teaser. I don't know. But I think the best way I can describe Season 3 versus 2 as far as endings go, Season 2, if they had to end it there, that's at least satisfactory. Like, with the exception of Hector's plot thread. This one, we definitely want more.
Yeah, we need more. Not want more, we need more.
Yes, it's like, they could have ended it there. I don't think they were going to. I'm glad they didn't. But I would have been okay if we had to jump ahead in the Castlevania timeline. Here, we need to have a solid conclusion. We need to go further.
Anything else? Because I'm
just
bad out.
Leave Alucard alone.
Leave Alucard alone.
He's precious. Don't do that to him again, please. Well, this has been Blake Cross EXE.
And Ryoji42.
With Flash and Glaze Productions, thank you all so much for watching, and join us again when Castlevania Season 4 comes out. Peace out.
Peace.